Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Andrew Kaminsky. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of ZiNova Implants. And today I have with me my esteemed doctor partners, Dr. Juan P. Anfrans and Dr. Richard Stevenson. And we're going to talk through some of the most common questions we get about zirconia implants. Juan, I'll start with you and I'll throw you this one. What is zirconia?
Hi, Andrew. Thanks for having me here. Zirconia is a ceramic material that has been used in dentistry for many, many years, specifically in implant dentistry. In the 90s, we began using zirconia to fabricate abutments for dental implants. And then we also began to utilize zirconia as a means of replacing missing tooth, meaning the manufacturing of dental implants made out of zirconia. So zirconia is a material that is highly biocompatible. It does not corrode. There's no issues with metal sensitivity or any metal allergies. And so therefore, it's a material that is really interesting for patients that are seeking a more holistic or biologic approach to implant dentistry. And as clinicians, it is very interesting because it provides a lot of advantages over titanium in my point of view.
Great. So, Richard, let me ask you this. How does zirconia compare to titanium implants that are on the market today?
Well, from my experience in restoring many zirconia implants and titanium implants, I found the stability of the bone around titanium implants to be marginally better. I've also found a great acceptance and enthusiasm of our patients. Patients that seek out alternatives like a zirconia implant are usually very enthusiastic about it. They're inquisitive. They care about the details of how it works. And that usually makes for a good patient. I found the soft tissue response to be amazing, particularly with the solid implants. The kind of biological acceptance of the material is excellent. And I've been using zirconia in my practice since 2002, when it was first introduced as a coping for all ceramic restorations. And then it finally evolved into a monolithic material, which we've learned quite a bit about over the years. But nothing we use on top of an implant is as good as what we can do with an implant in a more controlled laboratory setting. And that's one of the things I'm really excited about, is that the methodology in the fabrication of zirconia implants, first of all, is not all the same across all manufacturers. But it represents an opportunity for us to utilize zirconia in its highest quality state, in its most biocompatible and strongest particular form, better than anything that we can mill either through a commercial laboratory or chairside to put on any implant. So that's something that's really interesting about them. I found the restorative workflow with a zirconia implant to be very straightforward. Not cumbersome at all. Quite typical. I think zirconia is a wonderful implant option for us instead of zirconia. And furthermore, I know you'll probably ask this later, but there's a certain percent of patients that we don't see good results with titanium implants. We see tissue issues, we see lack of integration. We see kind of these chronic peri-implant or peri-mucositis issues, and I've always sort of thought, what did I do wrong, or maybe what is it that the patient did wrong? And sometimes in those situations, it's neither of us did anything wrong. It's actually the material itself. I think that's a fascinating thing to discuss, is the incidence of true titanium allergies is out there, and we tend to sort of brush it aside. But it's a real issue, and it can negatively impact our outcomes. So it's something I think it's really important for us to talk about today.
So how has, with your vast experience, how have the implants that you have placed performed as far as you know. And that's either you gentlemen.
Well, I mean, I think Dr. P is placed, probably 1,000 times more implants than I have, but I've restored 1,000 times more implants than he has. But it's we both dabble in each other's wheelhouse a little bit. So I'll defer to Dr. P for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I started placing zirconia implants in 2013, so it's been over 10 years now. And initially, my experience with them was just simply, a patient here and there would come and would ask for a zirconia implant. And at the beginning, I knew very little. But then over time, you start seeing the results, and you start seeing the long-term behavior of what Dr. Stevenson was pointing out, the soft tissue especially. And you're like, wait a second, there's something different here. And so I can tell you that in the 10 plus years of placing zirconia implants, I've had just a handful of peri-implantitis cases, which says a lot about the material. I mean, one of the greatest advantage for me as a clinician has to do with the resistance to peri-implantitis. Obviously, we're not saying that peri-implantitis is not going to occur, and there's studies that show that it does, but when the disease occurs, it is more slow progressing, and the incidence of peri-implantitis is significantly lower around zirconia implants. So my experience with zirconia implants has been fantastic. I mean, that's where my practice is headed now, and I find myself instead of waiting for a patient to ask for a zirconia implant, I choose to place the zirconia implant instead of a titanium implant for the many advantages that we'll discuss in a little bit.
Excellent. So one of the early knocks on zirconia was always a question around strength and fracturing. Can you talk about your experience with those issues related to zirconia?
Sure. If you want, I'll start, and I'm sure Dr. Stevenson can chime in afterwards. So first, we have to understand how these implants are manufactured. Traditionally, just like any dental implant, not only zirconia, but titanium as well, they're manufactured via subtractive milling, meaning that you have a rod of, whether it be titanium or zirconia in this case, and then that gets milled into the shape of a screw, and then there's additional processes that are done to achieve the rough surface on that implant, whether it be sandblasting, acid etching, or a combination of those. And to obtain these rods of zirconia, in the past it was done by pressing. It was a simple pressurized mechanism where the material was compressed. And those manufacturing techniques left a significant amount of voids in the material, and hence why we experienced a decent amount of fractures. And I'm talking, in the early ages of zirconia, in the as far back as the 60s, the 70s, and then the 80s, especially, they experienced a lot of fractures with the material because of the manufacturing protocols. Nowadays, that has changed. And we have hot isostatic pressing, or a further advancement, which is injection molding, which is the latest technology in the manufacture of zirconia implants. And this allows for a material that has zero compactation defects, and has been proven both in the laboratory and in clinical studies that these implants are now able to withstand by far the occlusal forces that are going to be subjected to in the oral cavity. So we're talking about a very different material than what we used to have in the past. The manufacturing is completely different, and this allows us now to have finally a product that is reliable and that is resistant to fracture.
Excellent. And that's what makes ZiNova different in the marketplace, is the method of manufacture, or are there other factors?
I would say that definitely the manufacturing method, because we manufacture via injection molding, that sets us apart from the other manufacturers. But something that's interesting about injection molding is that not only it provides for a much more stable and robust product, but it also cuts down the cost of manufacturing significantly. There's a lot of added costs with the conventional manufacturing techniques. There's large footprint that it takes. There's the post-processing requirements to achieve the surface, whereas injection molding, you have the macro, the micro, and the nano characteristics of the implant built into the mold. And so you're able to obtain a high quality product at a fraction of the cost, and that's just simply with the change of manufacturing techniques.
Excellent.
Yeah, I honestly believe that one of the biggest barriers to get over after you learn that the strength of zirconia implants is no longer an issue, the other issue people have to deal with is that, traditionally these implants by our major manufacturing partners are too high. They're too expensive. And we have to make a living, and it's super competitive right now in the implant world. Our dental fees have gone down quite a bit, and you look at a zirconia implant from another manufacturer that does not use our injection molding method, they just necessarily have to charge more. And I don't know if you've experienced this as a listener, but when one of the top tier, most recognizable implant companies comes to talk to you about their offerings, I would imagine they don't even mention zirconia implants. And there's a reason for that. And that's because that, their margins are small and the price is high. And so one of the things that ZiNova has done is they've recognized that and said, no, wait a second, how can we put out an implant that is not only better than the other manufacturing techniques, but at a price point that makes it more affordable? And to me, that is this magical blend that we've been able to accomplish with our company.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes traditional zirconia implants can cost twice as much as a titanium implant. That is the cost of purchase for the operator. And therefore, a lot of clinicians will charge more for ceramic implants. And I think that's, as Dr. Stevenson well pointed out, that makes it prohibitive for patients in many occasions. So for us, the technology allows us to manufacture a high quality product, and on top of that, we're able to provide it at an affordable cost for clinicians, and therefore ultimately is the patient that ends up benefiting the most.
Yeah, I
One
also
of the questions I get.
simplicity. I'm sorry, I just like the simplicity of our system. Our surgical kit is amazingly, it's aesthetic, it's simple. Sometimes those surgical kits become just so complex. And we put together a kit that is just, you look at it and you intuitively know exactly what to do. And I think that's a real plus. And we've also placed our zirconia implants robotically too. We have a Yomi robot in our office, and we have no problems whatsoever utilizing the robotic interface as well. So, if you have the resources to have a robot or some guided system, you could really up your game and offer patients this incredible workflow, but at a fee that allows patients to afford it. So it's kind of nice that we're able to do all those things.
Excellent. One question I always get asked when we're at trade shows speaking to clinicians about our products is, can zirconia be prepped?
Yeah. The $1 million question.
Yes.
I'll give you my brief comment on that, and I'm sure Dr. Stevenson will add much more because zirconia is right up his alley. So, from a material standpoint, if we're just looking at the hard material, everybody will tell you that you're not supposed to touch it. Because once you start modifying the material, that's when you can get into problem. Now, having said that, zirconia has a self-repairing capability where it can change the phase of the material when altered, but the bottom line is that no, you should not prep these materials. They will tolerate minor adjustments, as far as, for example, if you want to taper, in the case of a one-piece ceramic implant, if you want to taper the abutment a little bit for, let's say, an anterior tooth to give it a little bit more room for a restoration, you can do that. But what you should never do is start dropping the margins or altering the margins or significantly reducing the abutment, because that's when you get into problems. And I'm sure that Dr. Stevenson can add much more to this.
Yeah, I just think that once you prepare zirconia, you've now committed yourself to, you're going to take advantage of some of that transformational toughening that can happen when you convert things to a monoclinic and they go back to a tetragonal after they kind of expand at these micro cracks. But I wouldn't rely on that to bring you back to the original features of the strength. And also the difficult part about prepping zirconia is, sure, you can take it away, but how do you polish it? And how do you polish it to the original luster that you had? And you may think it's okay, but microscopically it's not quite there. So we like to do as little adjustment to zirconia as we can. Now what that does is it does require the clinician to think a little bit about, where do you want to put your margin placement? How high do you need the zirconia abutment to be for retention? What about lingual clearance and function and things like that? So the placement of a solid single piece zirconia implant is not without its complexities. Like any system, you have to think things through, and you always have to imagine the final crown, and then sort of imagine the final crown, and then where should you position the implant with the appropriate amount of thickness for the final restoration, and also taking into account making sure you hide the margins but not bury them too far. So these are all things that Dr. P and I cover in we have a one-day course in ceramic implants, and it's amazing. It's here at our teaching center. We have one coming up, I think it's in June, and we plan on running these couple times a year to help people understand the nuances of how to position the implants properly. And I can tell you, it may be a detailed workflow, but it's not too difficult. Once you understand it, you can implement it. I have my associate who's recently out of dental school placing incredible zirconia implants, providing us with optimal final contours of the crowns. We're not having to do these strange adjustments. I think that sometimes when people look at a solid, zirconia implant, they kind of scratch their head and go, "Yeah, but how's this going to fit?" And I think that's a reasonable question, because I think that's where that question about can we prepare it comes from. It's like,
yeah,
whoa, I put the implant, but I don't like the margin location. I don't like the clearance. I need more clearance and things like this. And of course, you can make some modifications to the clearance issue, but I wouldn't touch the finish line. I would leave that alone. It's so perfect for our ceramic restorations. The way it is right now, it's amazing. So I wouldn't actually touch that part of it, if at all possible.
Okay. Now we all know that implants come in, I guess, two different varieties. One is a one-piece, and then there's the two-piece option. The U.S. market seems to favor the two-piece option. I was wondering if you gentlemen could talk to us about that and where a one-piece fits best. What's the best application, and where a two-piece makes sense and why.
Okay, can I comment, and then I'll be short?
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna leave that one to you.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh boy. Well,
I'll chip in at the end, but it's all you.
The one-piece system is, and I'm a gadget guy. I was doing bone level implants from the very start, and taking fixture level impressions and then scan bodies and all this kind of stuff, and it's kind of fun and it's wonderful and all that sort of thing. But with a supra-gingival, one-piece system that you can cement a crown on top of, man, I'm telling you, it's simple, it's beautiful. These restorations have such great health. At first, I'm a restorative guy. I was at UCLA for 26 years, teaching restorative dentistry to residents and students, and I got to tell you, I was shocked at how wonderful the one piece works. So I think what I would say to the two piece, the ones waiting or wanting to just do two piece zirconia implants, is I get it, because you're kind of applying the two piece principle to a different material, and you're just sort of just saying, okay, I want to do it the same way I've been doing it. And I would challenge you to try it differently, because it's so simple and the results are so great. So to me, that is the way to go. Managing cement is always a consideration, but when you have a zirconia implant with a beautiful collar of this really tight keratinized tissue surrounding the area, we're less concerned about cement aberrantly going down into a thread or something like that. We have no cement issues at all. We just follow pretty straightforward protocols with that. So although I really think the two piece is super cool because it fits with our sort of current workflow, the tissue level implants are amazing, and there are some clinicians that's all they use because they're so great. And I think that we're going to see some pendulum swinging in this area. I think when people start to realize that micro gaps, no matter how wonderful your internal connections are and how tight they fit, there's really nothing better than a solid interface that comes up from the bone to the tissue crest in terms of overall health. And that's, I was so wanting two piece, and now I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I think I can handle most of my restorative issues with a one piece system, surprisingly. So it's been a nice discovery for me. I'll stop and I'll let you chime in.
No. I mean, I think what you said is absolutely true, and I think also the two piece has always been the familiar option, right? Implant dentistry traditionally has been two piece. There were some one piece systems that didn't really take off, didn't have a lot of success, but for the most part, two piece systems have dominated the market, and that's true. But it was the introduction of the two piece systems that brought us all the problems with crestal bone loss, for example, right? And we know that two piece systems of a tissue level design, where the interface between the implant and the abutment is above the crest of bone, gives us the best bone levels. And so the one piece system gives you that. It is a tissue level design, so the interface is above the crest of bone, and the bone maintenance of these implants is flawless. I mean, we have X-ray after X-ray of the bone being right at that interface between the abutment and the upper portion of the collar of the implant, and that's case after case. And so, yeah, I mean, from a familiar point of view, sure, perhaps the two piece has always been more popular, but I can tell you that if I want to place an implant in an anterior tooth or a premolar, a one piece is a no-brainer.
No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And I get it. I think, the two piece will be great for those situations where we really want to have a screw retain situation. I get it. But, it's, I guess rather than just looking at the entire array of possible implants as I will only use a two piece, I think we should make our algorithm a little more sophisticated, where we can say, wait a second, the one piece can work here and the two piece can work here. And so for my one piece cases, this is how I'd like to go. And rather than just say, no, everything's got to be two piece, I think it's not a dumbing down, but it's actually an improvement of the way we think about cases. And it's just, maybe it's kind of a little bit out of the box for some people at first, but I think once you figure it out like I did, I'm like, oh my gosh, these are amazing. So yeah, I'm all on board with the when they're applicable, and they're not applicable everywhere. I get that, but for many of the cases they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's an indication for both. I mean, I would say that the advantage of a two piece is, for example, when you're trying to do large cases like a full arch or something like that, then you need the flexibility of the two piece, and we have that, so you can handle any situation, whether it be a one piece or a two piece. So there's no right or wrong here. I mean, there's, like I said, there's an indication for both. So
So, what are the compelling reasons why clinicians should consider adding zirconia to their practice, other than for some of the health reasons for patients? But on the clinician side, how does it help them?
Oh man, I mean, I'll talk quick and be done. It's sort of like you put something in a patient that may not be biocompatible with them, and then you deal with the problems. Or do you put something that is going to be 100% biocompatible and then not have to worry about that? And so I do a lot of gold onlays and things like, and the gold that I choose is palladium free. And the reason why I use palladium free gold is because palladium has an allergenicity issue in a certain percentage of the population. So I just don't want to mess with it. So I use palladium free and I apply that to everybody. And so I kind of see that a little bit as an opportunity for us. And I know that is part of the health reason. I'd also say simplicity of the system, healing, the cost factor, the fact that you stand out differently from everybody else out there that's just putting in titanium. You can distinguish your practice as kind of cutting edge, or maybe looking at more holistically, and all of those reasons are part of it. I'm sure that Dr. P's got more to add, but that's what I found.
Oh, and that's absolutely true. My relationship is more on the surgical side. I don't restore. I place implants, and so from my point of view, what I'm trying to do in my practice is minimize complications. And I can't tell you how tired I am of having to deal with peri-implantitis, especially, and implant failures and all of that. And to me, the biggest advantage of these implants is the reduced incidence of peri-implantitis and the overall health of the soft tissue around these implants. Keep in mind that zirconia has the ability to provide a mucosal obturation or a seal similar to what we see around natural teeth between the soft tissue and the surface of the root. And so there's an inherent protective mechanism around these zirconia implants, making for a much more robust peri-implant soft tissue environment. And to me, that's the key to the long-term maintenance of these implants. Obviously, we have the issue with metal sensitivities and metal allergies and the holistic approach and all that. But for me as a clinician is just minimizing complications and the difference in the health of the peri-implant soft tissue, especially.
Yeah, and I think it's important for all of us to remember that of all the restorative materials we have, whether it be gold, porcelain fused to metal, one of the glass ceramics, the various different glass ceramics, whether they're pressed or milled, that the number one biocompatible interface is polished zirconia. Number one. There's no debate. And the other thing, Dr. P and I are both academic people too, and we publish and we read papers all the time. And one of the things that I found to be particularly compelling for me is that there's very strong evidence-based literature to document all of the things we've been saying. And, don't take our word for it. Look it up. Come to our course. We'll share with you the data and provide you with a very sound, scientific, evidence-based approach towards this hopefully new phase of your implant dentistry.
Well, you led right into our last question, Richard. Thank you for that. And that is really, where can clinicians learn about these products today?
Well, I'm going to pull up my phone. And we have a course coming up at our teaching center. And oh my gosh, I don't know, maybe I didn't get it on my calendar yet, but I don't know, Dr. P, maybe you have it. I tell you what, when we air this and edit this, we'll put the date of that course up there. And courses are hands-on, AGD PACE approved, ADA CERP approved. I mean, we have the golden, approval from both of those agencies. And I think that a one-day course on a Sunday where we get into the the background, the lectures, the frequently asked questions, and then we have everyone do zirconia implants on sawdust jaws using our surgical kit. And then we go into placing at least one implant on a patient where everyone gets to watch in a small classroom size situation with cameras and monitors. I mean, it'll blow your mind. And so a course like that is coming up. I believe it's in June, and I could run out of the room and go grab the exact date and come right back.
We'll find the date.
We'll flash it on the screen.
But yeah, we have obviously part of our mission at ZiNova is to educate and train, and so we have recurring training courses, whether it be a 1 day, sometimes we have 2 or 3 days, depending on the needs of the group. And we can also organize on-demand courses for specific groups. We provide training courses for whoever is interested in adopting this new technology to their practice.
Well, is it your feeling that eventually everybody's going to have to adopt this technology?
I think it's very clear that the market is changing. The market share of ceramic implants is going to capture about 10% of the global implant market by next year. That's the most conservative numbers, and from what I'm seeing, it's going to be higher than that. The other thing you need to realize is that at least in the United States, the FDA has been looking at issues with metal implants, not only dental implants, but hip prostheses and other metal implants. They've been looking at issues with reactions of the body and systemic health issues due to these metal implants, and they've already made some recommendations as far as some testing or some diagnostics to identify those patients that might be at risk. And so there's a lot more talk and buzz about potential issues with titanium, metal implants, corrosion, and allergies, and all that. So I think we're gonna, in my opinion, I think ceramic implants will replace a lot of the current titanium implants that we're placing in the next 10, 20 years.
I do too, and it takes dentists a while to change. It's like we say, it takes a generation, but when the price point is low, that speeds it up. And I think that when the benefits are high, the price is low, and its simplicity is there, we can actually shorten that conversion. So I think it's good. It's very exciting. I feel like I'm on the ground floor of something that's going to be huge. That's how I feel. I have this really strong sense of excitement because we're doing, I think, not only the right thing, we're doing it well. And we're using a product that is affordable and incredibly well manufactured. By the way, the course that we have here at Stevenson Dental Solutions, and you can just Google that, Stevenson Dental Solutions. The course is June 8th of 2025, and it'll start at 8 o'clock in the morning and we'll go to about 4. We'll give everybody 8 hours of CE credit, and it'll be lecture, hands-on, and clinical. So pretty amazing situation. So check that out on our website and you can register. We're going to limit it to about 20 people, and that'll be coming up this year, 2025, on June 8th.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time today.
You got it.
And
thank you.
We'll have version 2 coming up here real soon. Thank you.